I'm sure just about everybody's heard the expression the lesser of two evils, and where it's not a great expression, it does uncover a definite truth about life. The idea is pretty simple, and we're going to get into it in this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Hello, I'm your host. I'm Kurt. It is Saturday, the 19th of December, 2020, and I welcome everybody aboard, whether you're coming on from Rumble on the podcast or on YouTube. Thank you and welcome. As I say, the subject today is the idea of toward perfect. In case I hadn't said that, I am now, right? And it really does sort of relate to that old expression, the lesser of two evils. The reality of life is this. You are pretty much never going to entirely encounter or receive perfection. It's just not going to happen. I think that there are times when arguments can be made in the direction of your seeing something as idyllically perfect, right? But something that actually in every single sense matches perfection is something you should pretty much never expect to see or achieve. It's just not something you should have happen. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying that if it does happen, it's less likely that it's a result of careful planning and perfect execution than it is a matter of luck, serendipity, luck, whatever you want to say. And this is important because what it means is that when you look at things like personal relationships, when you look at things like political outcomes, when you look at things like people's beliefs and so forth, you have to recognize, you have to realize that you're never going to find anybody or anything that is perfect. Now, I can make an exception, and the exception would be God, right? That would be the exception. God is perfect. God is perfect. Okay, all right, fine. If you're online with my beliefs as a Christian, then you can hold with that, and that's great. And in the sense that everything is designed for a specific purpose, it can be argued that makes things perfect as well for your needs. But the point is, I'm pretty convinced that humans being allowed to be as they will be, and things being as they are, the idea that you're going to encounter perfect is a rather silly idea. Now, one of the places that I think that this applies that I don't think a lot of people are considering is things like politics when it comes to elections. You've got these people, okay, and I'm not going to get into who, but people who claim to be proponents of a particular ideology, a particular set of beliefs, and it's obvious when you look at them that they're not. They don't believe the things that they say they believe. They just don't, and that's obvious. Okay, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. And so the point is that you've got these people who act as though they are this thing, that thing, whatever, and they're not. But the question you have to ask yourself is, are they moving in the direction of perfect, or are they moving away from it? And you can use one person, one thing, as relative to another. If I'm trying to get to, say a museum, and I'm on a roadway and the roadway doesn't come anywhere near the museum, it's more perfect for me to get onto a roadway that's moving towards the museum, right? The same thing applies to politics. If I have a person who is perfect or who is moving towards perfect as opposed to another person that I can look at who's definitely not there, whether or not I like the person who's closer to perfection than the person who's farther away is beside the point, okay? What matters is that person is moving towards perfect. Now, when they stop doing that, it's probably time to stop supporting them, okay? Here's the thing. Somebody recently said you should stop supporting the people who are moving closer toward perfect and start a new thing that that brings you even closer to perfect than those people are. And my response to that is kind of multiple things. First of all, the part of the problem is getting people to agree on what perfect looks like. Really, perfect is a thing for you, not a thing for others. It's a thing for you. Second of all, I don't see why starting something new that is closer to perfect and supporting something that is a little farther away but is currently available are mutually exclusive. That is to say, I don't see how a thing that is perfect, or closer to perfect, not perfect, because again, really that only happens in a very relatively few situations, but something that's closer to perfect, I don't see how supporting something that's closer to perfect than something else and supporting the idea of creating something new that's even more perfect than, even closer to perfect than the thing that you currently support are things that can't live together. Okay, I don't see that. I don't see that. When there is a thing that is way farther away from perfect than you'd like for it to be, yet it's the closest thing that's currently there, and then there's another thing that you want to support that would bring you a little closer, then I think you can do both of those things. I think you can split your allegiances until the thing that is closer to perfect actually comes to fruition, until it actually becomes a real thing. If it's a real thing, go for it. I think a lot of people, and I'm going to step into a realm that I normally wouldn't just to demonstrate. I think a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump voted for a man they knew to be very much an imperfect individual with the idea that he was closer to the perfection they sought in certain realms than anybody else running. And that included left-wing people and right-wing people. More right-wing people, I think, than left-wing people, but nonetheless, it included left-wing people and right-wing people. They looked at who was out there and they said, boy, look at these choices. And they thought to themselves, this one, as bad as it is in certain regards, this choice, this Donald Trump, as bad as he is in certain regards, he's the best thing going. They didn't say to themselves, he's perfect, because guess what? He's not, any more than I am. And I tell my son all the time, look, I'm not perfect. I'm trying to move in those directions, but I'm not there. So I'm not any more perfect than he is. And that's something that I tell him all the time, because that's reality. That's how life works. We move toward the perfect where we can. Sometimes we slide or fall backwards, but we move toward the perfect where we can. And when we're not perfect, we don't just give up and start to be less perfect. We continue to strive and seek to become more perfect. And this is the same thing for politics. It's the same thing for personal development and gain. It's the same thing for friends and family. You hope that they're all moving towards a more perfect person. Here's a funny thing. I hadn't even thought about this, but this is a funny thing. In order to form what? A perfect union? No, a more perfect union, right? Why? Because perfection is a thing to be sought, but in general, it's not a thing to achieve. This is the definite, significant realization that we need to carry around with us. Moving towards perfection is the thing. Being perfect is not. It's the goal. You could argue that it's the goal, but it's not the path. It's not where we are, and it's not likely where we're going to be, but that doesn't mean we don't move towards it. I say about my son all the time, my son is moderately autistic. I've told folks before, I say about my son all the time, look, the thing about it is he may never get where I want him to be, but if I don't move towards the ends that I really want for him, if I don't push him, you could say, not push, but urge him towards those ends, I can pretty much guarantee you there's a much less chance that he will achieve those ends. It's much less likely. So the point of all of this is simple. Life is about toward perfect. Life isn't about perfect. Life isn't about sliding back away from perfect. Life is about toward perfect. It's about moving toward perfection, about moving toward better. And so the thing is, when you talk about politics and when you talk about personal development and various things, your aim should not be to be in search of the perfect, but to be in search of the one who's closer thereto, right? Or to be in search of being closer to that yourself. Okay? All right. Coming to the point where it's about time for me to be done with my video for the day. I wanted again to thank all the folks who come in on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you for coming aboard. You can't know how much I appreciate it. Maybe I'll never get to the point where very many people are listening to me. Maybe I will. I don't know. But whether, like I say, Rumble, the podcast, or YouTube, wherever you decide to pick up what I'm saying, that's a great thing for me. As I say, today is Saturday, the 19th of December of 2020. That means tomorrow will be Sunday, the 20th of December of 2020, and hopefully I'll be able to see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Saturday, the 19th of December of 2020. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.